We are just 2 weeks out from the USMNT roster for the most important window of qualifying. The window where we will either clinch qualification, get 4th place and have to go to a playoff with Oceania, or not go to the World Cup altogether. And today I'm breaking down both what I think that roster should look like and also what I think Gregg is going to do. What up guys, I'm Pete, host of the 11 Yanks Show. On this channel, we discuss everything related to the American soccer landscape. If you're new here, do not forget to subscribe, but more importantly than subscribe, go hit that notifications button so you don't miss any videos. As always, destroy that like button, it helps other people to find us. Let's dig in. So guys, as with every other roster that the US puts out, the most important part of the roster is the periphery. Any clown can tell you that guys like Sergino, Dest, or Christian Pulisic, or Weston McKenzie, or Tim Weah should be on the roster. Most of the discussion, most of the debate, most of the argument is usually about roster spots 15 to 25, depending on how many players we bring. This is oftentimes where Gregg, in my opinion, has got it wrong in the past by playing favorites, by bringing too many of the same kind of players, by not having enough variance in his options so he can change things up if something isn't working. And this has, in my opinion, cost us crucial points, which is one of the reasons why we are in the position that we are right now, which is still very uncertain heading into the final window. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what I want to do, what I think we should do, and I will also speculate based on past evidence, based on data that we have with Gregg and his rosters, on what I think he will do. It is so important for him to get it right, guys. We really cannot afford any mistakes, any messes up in this window. World Cup qualifying is very much on the line. And while we don't have to get that many points, we really just need to beat Panama and get 1 point either in the Azteca or in Costa Rica. The pressure is on. The players will be feeling it. Gregg will be feeling it. Fans are feeling it. And it is so important to get this right. Let's have a look. Okay, so goalkeepers, I have Zack, Steffen, Matt Turner, Ethan Horvath, and Sean Johnson. Yes, I've got 4 keepers here. This depends very much on what happens with both Turner and Steffen, who are still injured. Steffen is out with a back injury, and Turner supposedly has some kind of foot injury. Now, there was some speculation that he suffered this injury in the last USA game in Minnesota, and some people even speculated that it was maybe frostbite or weather related. That is unconfirmed. From what I've been told, it's some kind of a foot injury. But bizarrely, when Bruce Arena was asked about it in the last press conference, he didn't really want to elaborate. That could just mean he doesn't want to speculate on an injury. But it will be very interesting to see if either or both of these guys recover in time for what will be a very important. Steffen's injury history is complicated, particularly with his back, and that's something that's worrying me. He's always having back problems, which is part of the core and really something that you don't want to be injuring over and over again. That needs to be something to track, because if he continues with these kinds of injuries, keeps getting them, that's going to affect performance. That's going to affect how high his ceiling can be, because you do have to have a certain amount of consistency and regularity to your play in order to improve. Ethan Horvath is finally on a soccer pitch playing soccer again. He had 2 good games for Nottingham Forest while Bryce Samba is out with a suspension. Both of these games he got a clean sheet. I still think that Ethan Horvath is underrated because he hasn't been playing, and despite his Nations League heroics, a lot of fans have kind of forgotten about him. Guys, he's good with his feet, he's an excellent shot stopper. He's somebody that is very much in the mix for Qatar, in my opinion. And I would bring 4 keepers right now, because it really is 4 of these guys fighting for 3 spots in Qatar. And also because Zack Steffen is so injury prone, that's an even more reason to bring a 4th keeper. Sean Johnson is here. Now, Johnson used to be very erratic and error prone. He was always a very good goalkeeper, going all the way back to his time with Chicago Fire. Excellent shot stopper, was pretty good with his feet, but again, he would just make so many mistakes that he was erratic. Now, he's cleaned that up over the last few seasons for New York and has actually improved massively with his feet. He was decent with his feet in Chicago, but ever since Patrick Vieira, he's improved a lot. He's definitely one of the guys fighting for 3 spots in Qatar. The other guy that some people have talked about seeing is Slonina. Guys, I think it's too early for Slonina to be involved with the national team. He is still just 17 years old. He should focus on getting reps and minutes in Chicago, playing well, continuing to improve. He's going to have a very big summer being our #1 keeper for the CONCACAF Championship. That is the qualifying tournament for both next year's Under-20 World Cup and also 2024's Olympic team. So very important for him to focus on that. I think between the 4 keepers that we have, Slonina doesn't need to be involved just yet. Now, what is Gregg Berhalter going to do with this group? I'm guessing Horvath doesn't come if everybody else is healthy. I'm guessing we just see Turner, Steffen, and Johnson. Those are the 3 keepers that he's brought most consistently. It is interesting to see what happens with Horvath. Does he keep his job when Bryce Samba is no longer suspended? Personally, I doubt it. But there are rumors that he's coming to MLS to replace Matt Turner in the summer. And honestly, just having him play would be amazing. Fullbacks: Sergino Dest, Antonee Robinson, Joe Scally, DeAndre Yedlin, and Jonathan Gomez. Now, Dest has been playing really well for Barcelona over the last 3 or 4 games, which is good to see. And it's one of the reasons why I don't panic too much when one of our guys is at a super club and maybe the new coach comes in, doesn't like them, benches them for a bit. It's good for our players to go through that. It's good for them to have to dig deep, to have to grind, to have to work on their weaknesses, to compete for a spot. Clint Dempsey had to do this over and over again when he was at Fulham. And the fact that we have guys doing it at much bigger clubs is a good thing. Now he's back in, he's playing well, and if he wants to stay on the field, he's going to have to be good on both sides of the ball in order to keep his spot. I think it's been really good for him, and this is why we can't freak out every time one of our players gets dropped or has a rough patch. It's part of the development process. DeAndre Yedlin recently moved to Inter Miami. Now, the same issues that Yedlin has always had, he continues to have, right? He's not going to change. He's 28, 29 at this point. This is his prime. He's never been a very technical player, right? He is the product of the old American development system. Try hard, run fast, explosive, physical players were always the priority. But look, that can be good for what we need. I wouldn't start him, but he's got good recovery speed, and that's important when we're playing in a high back line. He also has experience. I think he should be in this roster. Joe Scally, although he's not playing for Gladbach right now, I would still bring him, okay? Being benched and then having to earn your way back onto the field is part and parcel of the ups and downs of playing at a very high level. And for me, Scally is still a better option than either Cannon or Brooks Lennon. He's also versatile, right? He can play on either side. Now, I don't love him playing on the left the same way that I don't love Dest playing on the left, but if something happens to Robinson, it's nice to have 2 right backs that can play on the left if needed. Now, you all know that Joe Scally gave an interview to ESPN. I think he was talking to Derek Ray and said he hasn't really had any communication with Gregg since the November camp. Guys, it is part of Gregg's responsibility to keep in regular contact with the player pool. And this is something that's been touted about Gregg, his relationship with players, his communication skills. So one of 2 things is happening here. Either Gregg has dropped the ball and has not really done what he's supposed to be doing, or he doesn't consider Joe Scally to be part of the player pool, which is shocking to me. I don't understand how a player playing at that high level and honestly playing quite well for the most part, okay, doesn't mean he has weaknesses, doesn't mean he doesn't have things that he can work on like every other 18, 19-year-old does, but he should absolutely be a part of the player pool, especially given some of the options that are making rosters. So I don't know what's going on with that. I think it's pathetic, honestly, that Gregg is not communicating with him, and I'm glad he called him out. I mean, some people think that players shouldn't be allowed to call coaches out and that they should just shut up and listen and do what they're told. I am not at all of that ilk. I also don't think that he called him out in a bad way. He was asked a question. You must be having a lot of good communication with Berhalter. And he said, yeah, up until November, there was. After that, not so much. So I don't think he was saying it in a bitter way. He was just answering a question. So I really want Joe Scally to be part of this roster, but knowing Gregg Berhalter, guys, he's probably not going to be there. Probably instead of a guy like Joe Scally, Reggie Cannon would be there, or even Brooks Lennon. I can honestly see Brooks Lennon being called in. Gregg Berhalter talked about him in glowing terms prior to the last camp. He was brought into the last camp despite being out of season and not playing at all, right? I also expect one of Bello or Vines to be there over Jonathan Gomez. Now, I would have Jonathan Gomez in this camp for 2 reasons. He's not really ready to play just yet, and I wouldn't expect him to play, but we are in a big tug of war with Mexico right now for his services, and I think bringing him into this roster will accomplish 2 things. One, it will remind him that we see him as part of our player pool and continue to get him involved in very high profile, high stakes camps. And 2, we've heard a lot about how complex Gregg's system is and also how certain players don't get enough playing time because they don't understand the system. What better time to bring a player in and give him greater face time with Gregg and his PowerPoints so that he can understand the system, so that when he is playing at a decent enough level to start getting regular minutes, he already understands the system TM. Let's jump into center backs. Walker Zimmerman, Miles Robinson, Chris Richards, John Anthony Brooks, and Mark McKenzie are the 5 that I would bring. John Brooks needs to be back on this roster, okay? We all know that he has weaknesses. Defending in transition is one of them. But his form for Wolfsburg has been just fine. So the whole he's out of form argument, completely out the window for me. He also has strengths, right? He's very good in the air. He's very good with the ball at his feet. And yeah, he brings experience into a camp that is going to be very high pressure with a ton of stake. Part of the reason I would have John Brooks is because I would have him as in a back 3 at the Azteca. I don't know if we should go play all-out attacking soccer at the Azteca. I think we'll leave ourselves a little exposed. I think maybe being a little more cautious, having 3 at the back and packing that midfield could be a little better and also more likely for what we're trying to do, which is get a draw in Azteca. Because if we get that 1 point in Mexico and then we come home and we beat Panama, boom, we're in top 3. It's over. Chris Richards should be back from injury in time to make this roster, and he is a lock, in my opinion. McKenzie is there as a backup in a back 3, but I wouldn't want him playing in a back 2 at all. McKenzie hasn't really found his feet in Belgium. He's been in and out of the Genk team. In last week, he wasn't even on the bench. He's been struggling, and maybe McKenzie's level is just not quite high enough to be a regular starter for one of the top teams in Holland. Doesn't mean he can't bring value to our program. I just think he's behind all of these guys for now. And to be honest, I think in the future, we need to be getting looks at guys like Cameron Carter-Vickers or Eric Palmer-Brown. Miles Robinson and Walker Zimmerman are both reliable enough center backs for the national team, at least thus far. Yeah, I know Miles Robinson didn't have a good game against Panama. Zimmerman had that moment against Jamaica that didn't become a goal in the end that he should have done better with. But overall, their performances continue to justify their inclusion. And so long as they continue to perform well, they should be in there. It doesn't mean they both can't improve on certain things, but they both bring a lot to that back line and should be there. Now, what is Gregg going to do? John Brooks is not going to be there, guys. I would be very surprised if John Brooks is there, but maybe Gregg will surprise us and do something different. It's going to be Aaron Long. Gregg has had him in the last 3 camps, despite him not being fit, which tells you how highly he regards him. I have mixed feelings about Aaron Long. On the one hand, he wasn't terrible for us before his injury. He had some ups and downs. He had some poor moments, he had some good moments, but he is very good in defensive transitions, and that's kind of where he has value. Is he good with his feet? Not so much. How much does that factor into Gregg Berhalter's evaluation equations? I don't know. I just know that Gregg Berhalter wants Long there, and I probably wouldn't hate it if he brings it in. I just think if a player is out for a year, you have to give them more than 2 or 3 games back playing professionally before you throw them in at a very high level, high stakes game, especially if they weren't one of your best players when they were playing. Midfielders, Tyler Adams, Kellyn Acosta, Gio Reyna, Gianluca Busio, Yunus Musah, De La Torre, and Djordje Mihailovic. Now, obviously, Reyna's inclusion here is based on whether or not he's back from injury. He said he expects to be back for Dortmund before the international break. I don't know if Dortmund agrees with that. We haven't really heard from him. It is good news that it's just a tweak and it's not, a major injury again, but we do have to be very careful with Reyna because he's already injured himself again in the same spot, and you do not want to push him, right? So his inclusion in this roster for me depends very much on how much playing time he gets for Dortmund. Kellyn Acosta will probably have to start in the Azteca because Tyler Adams is on a yellow. So if he gets one more yellow, he could be suspended for that Panama game. And guys, we absolutely need to prioritize that Panama game. Getting a win there is more important than anything else that happens in Costa Rica or Mexico. So I would save Tyler Adams for that Panama game and give Kellyn Acosta the opportunity to say, look, silence your doubters, right? Getting in some good set pieces against Honduras was good. In many other games in World Cup qualifying, he was not good. To be fair, he was played out of position a lot of those times. But here's your shot. We're away in the Azteca, where Acosta has played before, by the way. He played in World Cup qualifying in the Azteca back in 2017. Adams, Musah, and De La Torre are all no-brainers, guys. Yes, I'm putting De La Torre in that category. He got a goal over the weekend, another man-of-the-match performance. It's just going from strength to strength for him in Holland right now. It's so bizarre to me that Gregg waited so long to finally give him an opportunity, but even Gregg admitted that he was man of the match against Honduras. Will Mexico and Panama and Costa Rica be tougher tests? Yes, of course they will, and he will have to continue to prove himself every time he steps on the pitch if he wants to earn more minutes. But all the evidence we have on De La Torre so far is that he brings so much in terms of something that we've really struggled with over the course of qualifying and honestly under Gregg's entire tenure, which is to bring the ball from the back line into the final third and create goal-scoring opportunities, create danger, be incisive, be probing, be good at breaking down blocks. That's what he brings, and he's a lock. Busio is versatile and is steadily improving. I still have questions about Gianluca Busio. He doesn't always impact the game the way I would like him to. It sometimes feels as if he's a little checked out and a little slow to react, and that's true whether he plays the 6 or the 8. I also have questions about his ability in a physical battle right now. It doesn't mean he's not on the roster. I think he can do something. Very technical player, good with set pieces, going to continue to improve. But yeah, I still have questions about the guy. Djordje Mihailovic is here because he should be. At this point, he was the number 1 in assists in MLS last season. I'm not talking about hockey assists, all right, which MLS counts. I'm talking about direct assists. On top of that, he went to camp. Okay, from what I heard, he impressed. In fact, in the 3 friendlies that the US played in the January camp, he was the top scorer. A lot of his teammates were very surprised that he wasn't included in the roster. Can you say system? And then on top of that, he gets a great goal and assist against Santos Laguna in the CCL. We need creative guys. We need technical players, guys who can play in midfield. I don't know how high Mihailovic's ceiling is, but I would have him on this roster, especially if Reyna is out. What is Gregg going to do? I doubt very much that Mihailovic is going to be here. I expect Sebastian Lletget and Christian Roldan to be here instead. De La Torre will probably be there. Busio, I imagine, will be there as well. Reyna, again, it's just a wait and see on how quickly he comes back from injury and how much playing time he actually gets before the camp. Forwards, Brenden Aaronson, Christian Pulisic, Tim Weah, Konrad, Sargent, Pefok, and Pepi. Should Sargent be back? Yes, he should. He's been doing about as well as he can right now, playing out of position for a bad team in the Premier League. The difference now and before with Sargent is that he looks more confident and decisive. And that's, probably a mental thing. I don't know if getting those 2 goals back in January helped, but he looks better on the ball. He doesn't look timid. He doesn't look fearful. He doesn't look like he's overthinking things and doubting himself on the pitch. And that's really good to see. He's versatile. He can play as a 9. Okay, he's very good in the air. For a team that puts a lot of crosses in, it's surprising that we don't get Josh Sargent doing that more. He's also versatile. He can play in wide areas. He can play in the midfield if you really have to. And I think it would just be a really good time to have him back on this team. Konrad de la Fuente hasn't always been good with his end product. But hear me out. Tim Weah has 4 assists for Lille this season. Konrad has 3 assists and 1 goal. So in the same league, their output and production is similar. What's my point? My point is, even if you aren't having the best season for a very high-level team, it doesn't mean you still can't be good for our national team in CONCACAF, right? We've seen this, for example, with Tim Weah. Now, they're different players, certainly, but I think Konrad deserves another shot, okay? Yes, he needs to make better decisions in the final third. Yes, his output could improve. Remember, this is his first season really playing as a first-team regular. But what Konrad brings to the table is if you need a goal in the last 20 minutes or so, he can come on, and what he's very good at is 1v1 dribbling. He will win dangerous free kicks in dangerous positions, and that is way more useful than having a guy like Paul Arriola come on and run his routes up and down the field and do a whole lot of nothing. Jordan Pefok, should he be here? Yes, for me, he should. I have my reservations about Pefok, guys. I don't think he's a long-term guy for this team. But what Pefok offers us is versatility. If you need a goal in the last 20 minutes and you are pumping crosses into the box, which is something that Gregg loves to do, then you should get a guy like Pefok in there. He's scoring goals. I know it's the Swiss League, but he's still scoring goals, right? Zardes gets his call-ups based on what? Scoring goals in MLS. Is it better than the Swiss League? Marginally, probably. But Zardes hasn't performed for the national team. I think it's time for Pefok to come in, to give him another opportunity. He can be a super sub option when we need something different. What is Gregg going to do? Guys, I hate to say this, but I'm pretty sure that both Sargent and Pefok won't be there. I think it will be Zardes and Ferreira, and I'm pretty sure that Arriola will be there over Konrad. Again, this doesn't give us a lot of versatility. It doesn't give us a lot of quality. And honestly, if those are the forwards that we bring, I will be very nervous going into this camp. So those are my thoughts on the roster, guys. Your turn to tell me what you think in the comments. Who would you bring? Who would you leave out? I'm gonna be doing another video soon about how I would handle each game in this upcoming cycle, what formation I would use, who I would play, how I'd approach it tactically. So keep your eyes out for that. Thanks for watching as always. You guys are awesome. I'll talk to you soon.